Strategic planning is a critical step, or DOT as I like to say, as we connect the dots from our mission to execution. The strategic plan is your blueprint to create the strategies to serve your mission and vision and address the opportunities and needs identified in the situational analysis. Welcome to The Connector Life, which is a blog and podcast to inspire innovation, strategy, and career development in pharmacy and in healthcare. I'm your host, Kimber Booth. I'm a pharmacist, healthcare leader, and entrepreneur. I help pharmacists strategically advocate for roles and resources to advance practice and accelerate joyful, engaging careers. Connectors are those experts at connecting and uniting people, knowledge, and resources, and their success stems from bringing a level of energy and clarity for themselves and others. Let's do this. If you don't know where you're going, every road will get you nowhere, Henry Kissinger said. So let's plan where we're going so we can get somewhere. The foundation of your strategic plan include your strategies, which is how we will achieve our vision, our goals, which is what we must achieve to get there, our objectives, which is how we are going to gauge our degree of success with concrete measurable milestones on our way to achieving our goals. Then there are the actions or tactics. These are those planned specific actions to achieve that objective. And then you want to have metrics, which are your measures of success. Now I'm going to take you through a 10-step process to create your detailed strategic plan. So what is that process? There are several important sections to the strategic plan, and there are some additional suggestions that I will support later for your execution steps. We will go through each of these steps in detail, but first, the summary of the 10 steps. 1, you want to have your strategic pillars. 2, goal brainstorming. 3, objective brainstorming. 4, prioritization and a timeline. 5, write your SMART objectives in detail. Your metrics, number 6. 7 is your actions and tactics. 8 is accountability and RACI. 9 are your resource needs. And then finally, a summary plan. So how you are going to create your strategic plan can be important. A strategic planning workshop or retreat can be a fun, engaging process to involve your entire team. Consider conducting your planning off-site for a retreat. This will allow you time to focus on the planning away from the day-to-day. Now, depending on the size of your team, you may not be able to have everyone there, but you can get input from that extended team in advance. Some helpful tips. You want to plan for about 3 days in total. For the situational analysis that we reviewed in the last blog, you're going to want to have 1 day for that. The strategic plan, strategies, and objectives, you want to have 1 day. You want to complete that through process step 5. And then finally, you want to get together for your metrics and tactics. I think it is best to separate this final day from the other 2 days to allow some time for those strategies and objectives to sink in and ensure that you are comfortable with the prioritization and timelines and that they're realistic. Sometimes it's kind of that feeling where we get too optimistic when we're doing our strategic planning because we know there is so much that we want to do. You want to be able to invite a diverse attendees and get input in advance for your retreat. You're going to be doing strategic brainstorming. It is a key part of the process, and there are various techniques to facilitate the session. You want to get input and allow innovation to occur. So let's jump in there with step 1, the strategic pillar. You're likely going to be starting with your organization's strategic pillars, or those of the pharmacy enterprise, to start and align with. These can be flexible based on your organization's mission, vision, and their strategic pillars. For the pharmacy enterprise pillars, you may be familiar that these will include your operations, acute care, clinical, ambulatory care, outpatient retail, business, and people. For the organization pillars, the most common are quality, safety, patient experience, employee and provider engagement, and financial. Either way, you'll want to cross-reference to the respective pillar as you can connect the dots and develop your plan. So next step is goal brainstorming. This strategic goal brainstorming, the reason I say it's strategic is that you are going to use prior strategic plans and your situational analysis as the basis for this brainstorming. We're not starting from scratch here. At this point, we want to be complete in our brainstorming by thinking of all the opportunities and needs from the situational analysis. You may consider breaking into groups by pillar and then use facilitation techniques like a gallery walk to get input from the other groups and circle back and ensure a systematic review of your situational analysis. I like to think of the goals as the big buckets. Try to stay at a high level at this point, but capture all the ideas, even if they are more tactical, but put them in a parking lot. Know that you may be able to group these together under a larger goal or objective. When you move on to step 3, which is objective brainstorming, now you're going to want to think about more concrete objectives under each of those goals. I tend to think about these as what could be individual projects under that broader goal. You can start to make them into SMART objectives, but I usually reserve that for a separate step. I want to make sure that we have captured all the ideas at this point and don't get bogged down into the wordsmithing of a SMART objective. For example, a goal might be to improve medication reconciliation, and the objectives that I would capture at this point might be for admission medication reconciliation and discharge medication reconciliation. I would also consider another objective maybe for ambulatory medication reconciliation, but maybe we need to prioritize that for a later year, depending on our available resources. Fourth step is prioritization and timeline. Now, I know, there is way more to be done than there is time and resources for. It keeps me up at night. But to ensure our success, we will need to prioritize our key goals. These tend to be an eyes are bigger than our stomachs effect as we want to do more. We do this process and now is our opportunity to get back to reality. So here are some ways to prioritize. You're going to rank things, use individuals choosing their top 5 to 10 choices, and you can eliminate things that don't have as many votes. You can score them. Use an organization score if one exists, which are usually related to the pillars. You can score on a scale of 1 to 10 for criteria such as quality, safety, patient experience, regulatory and financial, as well as efficiency. You can also use a priority matrix grid, which is going to measure your impact versus your effort. This tool is a very nice visual of each objective and measuring that impact and effort ease. Finally, you want to look at your timeline. Once you have prioritized them, you're going to be able to put them into the fiscal year. Be realistic and capture those future goals in future years. While some feel creating a 3 to 5 year plan is not good, I'm kind of in the middle where I think that having a 3-year plan can be good so you can plan for the future and not feel pressured that you have to get everything done this year. And you need to know that it can be tweaked and revisited every year. So how many strategies should you have? This is one of the hardest questions at this stage. It's going to be based on the resources required for each of your goals and the resources available. You're going to want to make sure that you do not schedule all your time. You need to plan for unscheduled projects and priorities. In general, having 3 to 4 goals per responsible person can work, again, depending on the scope of those projects. Regardless of the total number, you're going to want to choose 3 to 4 goals that are your top department priorities. Let's move in to SMART objectives. Now is the time to get more specific and get that detail in terms of what will be achieved in what time frame. This is a familiar process when it comes to writing SMART objectives, but it should not be overlooked. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. 6 may be related when you go on to create your metrics. From those SMART objectives, you'll be able to easily define what is that specific quantitative target that you can consider outcomes and process metrics. You want to choose a target that is realistic as well as a reach target. The reach target you want to be inspiring and motivating, but you want the target to be realistic and attainable. The action and tactics are next. It's common for tactics to be discussed during the strategic planning, but it's important to differentiate your tactics from your goals and objectives. Remember, these are the specific actions to achieve an objective. In the strategic plan, you can capture those key tactics, but not every detailed step. That will come from an individual project plans per objective that you'll write later. The 8th step is looking at accountability. Next comes assigning this accountability for execution of each goal and objectives. Here are some key roles to think about when it comes to accountability and identifying your stakeholders. The sponsor, this is usually your department director or a higher level. A committee, it's helpful to assign objectives to a department or committee for reporting and tracking purposes. The RACI chart, which you may be familiar with, brings structure and clarity to describing the roles that the other stakeholders play. The responsible person or people are the stakeholders who do the work. They must complete the task or activity, make the decisions, and they are responsible. These tend to be, for pharmacy, the staff pharmacist or resident. The accountable person is that stakeholder who is the owner of the work. He or she must sign off on and approve the task or objective and decisions. You want to have this person be sure that they are overall looking at the responsible team members and they are assigned in a matrix. There can only be one accountable person in an ideal situation. The buck stops here. Consulted person are those people that you're going to ask and get information from. You want to keep them in the loop. And same thing with the informed people. It's a little bit different. You're not necessarily consulting with them, but you want to keep them up to speed on your task. The responsible and accountable should be assigned at this point, and the consult and informed can come later during your project planning process. It may even be worthwhile to identify your responsible and accountable prior to the prioritization in assessing the number of projects per person, because that is critical. So if you sign that in advance, that will help you decide how many you do. The ninth step are your resource needs. As you start the strategic planning process, don't limit your brainstorming to items that you can do with existing resources. You can resource new initiatives if there is existing capacity. You can reallocate to new initiatives or advocate for new resources. You want to identify needs for a business plan to advocate for those resources, which may be people like full-time equivalents or capital equipment like construction. So if IT resources are needed, those also can be limited. It's important to keep in mind how much they're being used for your projects. Just be sure not to commit to new initiatives without confirmation of needed resources. You know my motto is to be bold, as I believe pharmacy can do more with more. Finally, step 10, you want to create a strategic plan summary. You want to create a clear summary of your strategic plan. The overall strategic plan worksheet is valuable for internal use, but you want to create a summary slide that can be communicated broadly. Consider sharing the pillars and goals with or without those objectives. Remember, plan where you're going and get where you want to be. Congratulations! These 10 steps will create your comprehensive strategic plan. Upon completion of the strategic plan, you will want to take the next steps to execution. A project plan should be created for each goal and objective, and the strategic plan turned into a status execution tracker. Now, if you did not start with blog posts on situational analysis, head on over to kimberbooth.com/blog/013 or 012 for an overview of connecting the dots. Now, if you want to move on to justifying resources to deliver on your strategic plan, then stay tuned for my next post on business plans to learn more about this. If you want to go deeper, check out my Pharmavation course at kimberbooth.com/pharmavation, which is a facilitated implementation program that provides additional templates and tools with the opportunity to obtain feedback on your own situational analysis and strategic plan. Now, in this week's blog post at kimberbooth.com/blog/014, you'll be able to access the strategic plan template as the free blog download. Creating this comprehensive document is useful for both internal and external communication and tracking. So join the ongoing conversation at kimberbooth.com and subscribe to my email list so that we can connect regularly and I can share with you things that I don't share anywhere else. So now it's your turn. Let us know what strategic pillars you're going to use and if they're different from the ones we've talked about here. Share your insights and actions in the comments section on the website kimberbooth.com/blog. Be bold, be a connector and a pharmavator, and excel your life in advanced pharmacy practice. Thank you.